Hey, welcome back. Happy 2021. So today I'm just going to do some problems with you to remind you of what we were doing before winter break. I'm hoping you did no math and had some time to relax. So I'm going to just jump right in here so that this video isn't too long. Okay, so the first part is I'm just going to remind you of some trig ratios that we did before break. So you can write these down, but you don't have to. If you're just watching, that's fine too. Right, cosecant, we rewrote as 1 over the sine. And then secant, we rewrote as 1 over cosine. So those should seem pretty normal based on what we've done with trig this semester so far. Now, tangent and cotangent have two different ways we could write them. So tangent could be 1 over cotangent, but I honestly don't find that terribly helpful. I usually end up using sine of theta over cosine of theta. Now, cotangent has similar identity statements. So cotangent could be rewritten as 1 over the tangent. Again, I don't find this terribly helpful. I tend to like writing it as cosine over sine. So just a reminder of some identities that we did. Now, the Friday before break, I'm sure many of you were quite tired of doing math. So I'm just going to go through some simplifying with you and verifying expressions so that it kind of warms up your brain to what we're doing tomorrow. So here we go. To simplify each expression, notice there's no equal sign, so I'm not really sure where to go. And my only strategy so far is to rewrite things in terms of sine and cosine. So 1a, I have secant times tangent times cosine. And the times is implied, even though I don't see the little dots. So I'm just going to rewrite secant and tangent in terms of sine and cosine and see what happens. So secant is 1 over the cosine. Tangent is sine over cosine. And cosine I'm going to rewrite as cosine over 1. So what this is going to help me do is just multiply across. So the numerator looks like it's sine times cosine. Times 1 doesn't really matter. And then the denominator looks like it's cosine times cosine. Or cosine squared if you prefer. So let's see, we're in terms of sine and cosine, and what I see is that this cosine and this cosine can cancel out. So I'm really left with sine over cosine. And sine over cosine, hey, that's just short for tangent. So to simplify this expression, I would simplify it to just tangent of theta. Okay, so one problem is probably not enough to jog any memories. So I'm going to go on to part B here. Let me make sure my work is organized. There we go. Okay, so I see a cosecant and a secant. Both of those can be rewritten. So I'm just going to move up so you can see. Cosecant, I'm going to rewrite as 1 over sine. And that's going to be divided by 1 over cosine. So I'm just using these trig identities up here to replace the secant and the cosecant. All right, so now this goes back to some of my fraction knowledge. Dividing two fractions means I multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to do 1 over sine times the reciprocal of this denominator, so times cosine over 1. If I multiply across, I get cosine over sine. Well, cosine over sine, I take a look, it's actually right here. That's just a longer way of writing cotangent. So I would say that cosecant divided by secant simplifies to cotangent. Okay, so right now, all I'm really doing, my only strategy is rewriting things in terms of sine and cosine, and then seeing where my knowledge of simplifying comes in. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Part C looks like I have cosine times cotangent, and then that's divided by sine. Okay, so let's rewrite cotangent in terms of sine and cosine. All right, so I have cosine of x over 1 times cotangent is cosine over sine, and that's all divided by sine. A lot of fraction work going on, which may make some of you uncomfortable. I understand that. So we want to rewrite the two fractions that are being multiplied in the numerator. We want to write that as one fraction. So I'm going to multiply across. So I get cosine squared over sine, and that's being divided by sine of x. Okay, so cosine squared, so when I divide, I can think of this as sine of x over 1. So when I divide two fractions, I want to multiply by the reciprocal. So cosine squared x over sine x times my reciprocal of that denominator, so 1 over sine x. And now I'm going to multiply across again. So I get cosine squared x over sine squared x. Okay, so cosine over sine, I know from way up here, I know that that's cotangent. And the squared means I just have two cotangents there. So I'm going to rewrite this as cotangent squared of x. So hopefully by now you're getting really warmed up, feeling good about this stuff. Just when we hit another fraction. Okay, so the nice thing about this fraction is everything's in terms of sine and cosine, right? We have a cosine squared plus sine x all over cosine x. So this brings up something called the caring and sharing denominator. Why do I call it caring and sharing? Well, think of Valentine's Day coming up. We're going to share this denominator with both terms. And I say Valentine's Day because look at that beautiful heart we have going on. So the caring and sharing denominator, what that really means is I'm breaking up the numerator by writing it as two terms. So I have cosine squared x over cosine plus sine x over cosine. So that's the caring and sharing denominator. So caring and sharing denominator. By the way, there is no caring and sharing numerator. It wouldn't make a heart, first of all, but it just doesn't happen. You can only care and share with the denominator. Okay, so once I do this, what I see is that I can cancel this cosine out and make this just a single cosine. So I have cosine x plus, and then sine over cosine. If I look back up, that's actually tangent. So is this more simplified? It's a different way of writing it, but there's nothing more we can do with that. We're just going to keep it as cosine of x plus tangent of x. If we were to rewrite tangent in terms of sine and cosine, we would actually end up getting the original problem back. So I'm saying that's probably about as far as we can go. All right, let's take a look at the next page. Two more problems, and this is a verify each identity. What that means is we're going to start on one side, and our goal is going to be the other side. So typically for these, we're going to want to start on the side that has more stuff. So in our case, it's saying show the left side is equal to the right. So we'll be starting with the left side. So I'm going to start with this side, and I'm going to think, how can I simplify that to cosine of theta? That's my goal. So I'm going to think of this as my goal. And I'm just going to work with the cotangent divided by cosecant the way I would have on the other side of this page. So cotangent is cosine over sine. If you have to look that up on the other page or your other notes, that's okay. We're going to divide that by cosecant, so that's 1 over sine. I'm sorry, my writing is not good today. You can tell I have not been writing on a computer for a couple of weeks. Okay, so I have everything written in terms of sine and cosine. What I want to do now is get rid of the fraction divided by a fraction. So what I'm going to do is rewrite this as the numerator times the reciprocal, the denominator. Okay, so some of you may be seeing that we're kind of at our goal almost, but for those of you that don't see it, I just want to point out here, this sign in the denominator will cancel with this sign in the numerator. Or you can multiply across to see that. So what's left over is just a cosine of theta, which, that was our goal. So we're good. We have verified that cotangent divided by cosecant does equal the cosine of theta. And it only took us 1, 2, 3 steps, so not too bad. All right, let's look at the next one so that this video stays somewhat short. So sine divided by cosine times cotangent. Ooh, okay. So we have sines and cosines, but that cotangent really makes me want to rewrite it in terms of sine and cosine. So I'm going to get fractions within fractions again. You notice it's kind of what we've gotten. I'm going to write cosine as cosine over 1 because I know cotangent is cosine over sine. Okay, so our goal is to get 1, which would mean everything cancels out. So let's rewrite that denominator as 1 fraction. And at the same time, just to make sure that's a fraction, I'm going to rewrite it as sine over 1. So multiply across here, I get cosine squared theta over sine theta. Okay, so dividing two fractions means I need to multiply by the reciprocal. So sine of theta over 1 times the reciprocal. So I'm going to flip that around. So let's see. I end up getting sine squared over cosine squared, which is not 1. So I'm wondering, do I have a typo in the problem, or did I do something wrong? Let me just take a look. So sine, cosine, cotangent. Cotangent, let's just verify. What was cotangent again? Cosine over sine. Okay, multiplied across. Sine theta. Yeah, I think this one is wrong. I think this one should actually be a tangent squared theta, because this equals tangent squared theta. One would have been so much nicer. Now, some of you may be like, what in the heck? Can we just change stuff like that? No, we can't change stuff like that. That is really just Mrs. Sid messed up when I was making this sheet. So I hope to not do that for you for homework, or especially a quiz or a test. But I apologize for that error here. So I will reprint the worksheet so that that doesn't happen. But if you've already printed it out and you have that one, just know that that's wrong. All right, if any of this did not make sense at all, or maybe you were absent the Friday before break, shoot me an email. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom with you. I am around for the vast majority of the day today. Probably about 2:30 or so is when I will get offline to go get my daughter. So I will see you on Wednesday, and I hope you all had a wonderful break.